Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Meet the CloudStack community video series on YouTube. Today we have a special guest, Simon Weller from Educational Networks of America. Simon is a long-term PMC of the Apache CloudStack project, and he is a Vice President of Technology at Educational Networks of America. And the new thing around him is that Simon is the new VP of the Apache CloudStack project. Hello, Simon, and congratulations on being the new VP of Apache CloudStack. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and also what's the role of the CloudStack VP?
Absolutely. Well, Yvette, it's great to see you again. It's always a pleasure. The role of the Apache CloudStack VP is really more of a ceremonial one. It's really to encourage the community to coordinate better together and take various direction from the project management committee and relay that to the Apache board. But I'm very, very excited to be able to represent Apache. I've been involved in the community, well, I'd say since about 2011, 2012. We actually started rolling out CloudStack back in the cloud.com days. So even prior to it being acquired by Citrix and then gifted to the Apache Foundation. So been around quite a long time, and it's exciting to still be part of such a vibrant community. A little bit about me. I'm the Vice President of Technology at a company called ENA based in America. And we provide technology and carrier telecommunication solutions to schools. I've been in that role for quite a long time now, and love what I do. And a lot of that passion really has always been directed back towards technology and open source, and hence why being involved with the Apache community has always been so exciting for me.
You have been part of the Apache CloudStack community for such a long time. What is your observation about the evolution of the project in the last years?
Well, look, I think that every project that gets accepted under the Apache umbrella always has to try and build that really important base of community, because without that community, you can't survive. You know, we see a lot of projects that are gifted, get a lot of excitement, and then just fade away. I think what's been really great about Apache over the years is about CloudStack in particular over the years, is we've managed to really continue that community vision. And we've got a really great core group of people that have been around a long time that still have that passion and want to encourage others to participate as well. But the most important thing of open source is you have to get others to want to contribute, and you have to get others to want to give up some of their time and effort in order to make sure that you don't just survive, but you can actually drive forward a project into the future and make it sustainable.
Many IT experts are actually telling that the open source technology is the new normal. Do you think it's the same way? And also, do you think that CloudStack as an open source technology can help a lot of companies to boost their profitability or to decrease the operational complexity?
Yeah, look, absolutely. Part of what I've done since I started in technology has always been try and leverage the best technology and the best open source solutions that we can. But I think one thing that is often missed by a lot of enterprise environments and organizations is that they think that they can just take and just walk away, right? But the most important thing to sustainability long term is that you have to be able to give back as well. Right, so part of what my mission's always been, working in open source for a long time, is making sure that when we do talk to others and we encourage them to try the technology out and hopefully implement it into production, but also think about how are they going to give back long term so that the product is and the project is sustainable.
And when you're saying that people need to give back to the project, to the open source technology, what is your opinion about our CloudStack community? Do you see it as something which is growing rapidly? And do you have any ideas how we can make the community even bigger and engage the developers to contribute more?
Yeah, I think one thing I'll say is that I think it's a bit of a misnomer that a lot of people have, that you have to be a developer in order to be able to give back to open source, right? So, you know, I'm not a great developer. I'm going to say that right now, right? I dabble a little bit, but I'm not going to claim that I'm the best developer suited for any particular environmental project, right? Where I come in personally is I really try and give back to the user base from an engineering perspective, right? You've got a problem, how do we help you fix it? You want to implement a potential way of doing things, how can we encourage others to collaborate on it together, right? So I think that a lot of people need to get out of that mindset that you've got to be a coder in order to be able to give back to open source. There's so many other areas that you can contribute. I mean, case in point, Yvette, I mean, you're fantastic at what you do, but you're not a developer, right? But you are encouraging others through your engagement practices, through organizing events, through promoting the project overall to the community. And that is just as important, if not more so, than ever writing a line of code, right? So I think that a lot of people need to start to maybe think about other areas that they can contribute outside of just writing a line of code, because a project doesn't survive long-term unless you have that marketing capability, unless you have the outreach and you're able to encourage new participants, because ultimately you're always going to have some people leaving the community, and you need a long, robust pipeline of new members coming in to help out as well.
In terms of the implementation of CloudStack in different kinds of companies, how hard it is and what is the usual process in which companies can implement CloudStack?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that what draws a lot of people to CloudStack is the fact that it supports a lot of different technologies. And a lot of companies at some point get to a realization that they have to scale their environment. And doing that with a lot of the other products on the market, whether commercial or open source, can be quite challenging. And case in point there, right? I mean, we've seen a lot of folks over the years that have started off with VMware, or they might have started off with a public cloud solution like AWS or Azure or Google Cloud. They get to a point and then they figure out, well, how are we going to scale this? And let me kind of explain a little bit what I mean by that, because a lot of people right now are saying, well, of course you can scale AWS or Azure or Google Cloud. Yeah, you can, but at a massive cost, right? So scaling comes into both how do you make money long-term if you're a commercial entity, right? And how do you minimize those costs? How do you make it more manageable? And how do you get to that next level, right? So I think a lot of entities that start looking at solutions such as Apache CloudStack are thinking not just about the pure technology play, but they're thinking about the viability of the product long term. Typically what we see is that as new companies get started, or even established companies get started, they see a higher margin opportunity on the front end. And over time, that starts to get a bit more commoditized. They're looking for areas of savings in the underlying technology. And I think that's where a lot of people start to look at CloudStack. I think also you see other people and other companies that have been in open source for a long time, right? And they might have deployed KVM or some other hypervisor technology, and they just get to that point, that technological point where they can no longer scale, managing manually 100, hosts or something like that. And so they start to look for orchestration methods to make their life easier. And that's really where CloudStack shines.
You are seeing a lot for cost savings, and that's definitely a major benefit of the open source technologies, and actually quite important for all kinds of organizations who are building their own cloud, because you need to, at the end, to be competitive at the market. But except of the cost savings, which are the other major benefits which open source technologies and CloudStack can bring to your company?
Well, look, I think that the number one thing that I always think about is flexibility, right? And the ability for you to take something that has already been built out and then add new capabilities to it, really to meet the mission of your organization's goals, right? And for example, we've contributed a lot of new features to CloudStack over the years that have been driven by customer demands, right? And that's the best way, obviously, to build a business is you build stuff that customers want to buy. So I think by utilizing open source in general, or CloudStack or any open source tooling, it allows you to take a great set of features and functionality that will scale, and then actually add your own secret sauce to it, or as we often do, give back that secret sauce to the community so they can benefit from it as well.
Do you think that CloudStack is a universal solution which can fit any company, no matter its size or the industry in which they are, or there are some specific use cases in which CloudStack is a better fit?
Yeah, you know what, I think I'd like to say that it can suit everyone, but I think that's probably not entirely true. I think that you have to have some level of expertise on your team in order to be able to support it long term. And that doesn't mean that you need to have a massive team. In fact, it could be a team of one. But it does take, as with any software platform and any project, it does take expertise in order to operate it long term. So what I would say is that if you're thinking about deploying Apache CloudStack and you already have a few Linux chops under your belt, then that's probably more than enough for you to be able to explore it and deploy it. CloudStack is extraordinarily easy to deploy. You know, we love to say that it just works, and that's a true statement. It absolutely does. But if something starts to go south, something starts to go wrong, you're going to have to start digging in a little bit into the underpinnings of how the infrastructure works, because you have to remember that CloudStack is effectively an orchestrator. It's managing other components. So those other components can go south. CloudStack could be fine, right? So it's important that you have a good understanding of how the ecosystem of various underpinnings of CloudStack functions, so that you're more empowered to address problems if they do arise.
This all sounds very nice, but also, are there any weaknesses which you can see in the software, or do you see any risk of improvement?
Yeah, look, I think the community is always looking for new ways to improve. No a software platform is perfect, right? If it is, then we could just all go home, open a bottle of wine, and everything would be great. But you know, to be realistic about it, there's always new features, and the market is evolving at such a rapid pace these days that a lot of organizations are looking for new ways to be able to consume a service or consume a product. And I think that from CloudStack's perspective, we've been very deliberate about where we play and where we don't play, right? And so CloudStack has typically always been an infrastructure as a service orchestrator play. And there are other folks out there that are taking that as the underpinnings and then building various platform as a service, PaaS services on top. You know, obviously we have the Kate's plugin that has been contributed as a good example of dropping a PaaS product on top. And I'm sure that others are doing very similar things as well. So I think there's always areas that we can improve and new features that we could add that are more underpinnings. But I think that one thing that we've always done really good at as a community is knowing where we play and where we don't play. Because in the end, it's fine to contribute a massive new feature, but if no one's going to support it long term, then it's very difficult to get others to come in and, number one, help out with that and to be able to promote it.
Something I have always been interested, when you have an open source project, how the community is building the roadmap for the open source project and for the software development.
Yeah, that's a challenging one, to be honest, and because and it often depends on open source of how the oversight is run, right? So in some open source projects, you know, someone has decided that they want to open source some software and they put it up on GitHub, and they are effectively God. They can do whatever they want, right? Whether other people support them or not is effectively irrelevant in that picture. But when you've got a larger product or service that is inside a more structured entity such as Apache, we have a lot of guidance on how a community should interact. And I think honestly, that is very healthy because we really want others to contribute ideas. We need to have robust discussion around things. And sometimes that robust discussion can be a bit difficult for certain people, right? But it is crucial that we get buy-in from the community in order to chart the right path. So I wouldn't say it's a typical product management style roadmap that we see in open source, but it is very important that as ideas are brought to the table, they are discussed and that others are willing to support the overall visioning so that we do go in the right direction. I think the other component too is, and we see this quite a lot in CloudStack, is that we have commercial entities out there that are providing support and development services. Good examples of that, Shape Blue and CloudOps and others. And they have customers that might say, you know what, we want you to develop this new feature for CloudStack. And then they agree to open source it and give it back to the community. So that's also a great way to continue the feature development, because those features are often very commercially driven. And considering we are obviously predominantly used by those that are commercially driven, those features can be easy to adopt by others as well.
Can you share with us more about the release management process in the Apache CloudStack? How many releases you usually have per year? How do you decide what features will go in each release?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that it varies a little bit. We try and keep the release cadence pretty consistent overall. You know, we have major releases and we have minor dot releases that are really focused very much on critical bug fixes, because in the end, the operators are utilizing CloudStack expect stability. And so we have to be quite deliberate about what we will allow and what we won't allow, right? So typically when we're talking about a major release such as 4.16 or the future 4.17, we're talking about new features that could be breaking changes potentially or have high risk associated with them. If we're talking about 4.16.1, then we're talking about very, very minor changes that are totally focused on stability and bug fixes, right? In terms of how we decide what features go into new major release milestones, that's really got a lot to do with what has been reviewed and what the overall community is comfortable with. So if an organization or a developer brings in a new feature, they will open a pull request and they will request that to be merged, and then they will request review of that pull request via members of the community. And the members of the community will then make suggestions, or they might say, you know what, this is a cool feature, but we think it might break something else. And so then we would work with that contributor to figure out maybe how to re-implement that. But a very important part of CloudStack is stability. So we always smoke test all of the new features that come in, because we want to make sure that we're providing that long-term stability that our users expect.
In terms of the development of CloudStack, what would you recommend to all developers who would like to become part of the project?
You know, that's a great question. I mean, CloudStack is a huge project. I mean, the amount of code at times is a bit mind-boggling. And I think the number one thing that I would recommend to someone who wants to get into development is become part of the mailing lists. You know, we have a great development mailing list. We have great user mailing lists. And get a test environment set up, start to play with it, start to understand the features, how the features work in your environment, and then start to explore the code. And don't be scared of asking questions. You know, we have a great group of people who are really, really willing to help. And I, for one, want to make sure that anyone who comes in the community is going to get a benefit of being able to hopefully avoid the pain and suffering that some of us have gone through trying to figure out how certain things work. I mean, if you're trying to implement something in a particular driver or a particular group of code, I guarantee there's someone who's already suffered that pain before, right? So just asking on the mailing list, we can find that right person for you, and they can hopefully help shortcut that learning curve.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that the community is quite viral. So if you want to engage, there are several ways in which you can do it. You can join either the events or you can join the mailing list, and the people are quite responsive. So you can always rely on getting some help.
Yeah, absolutely. And the events are fantastic. And, you know, during the COVID era, which has obviously been challenging for all of us, we've had some of our biggest online events that you've produced and made them super successful, which is fantastic. And so it's just great seeing all these new people come out of the woodwork who are willing to learn and willing to be part of the community.
Simon, as the new VP, what are your targets for the future year? Do you have something like a checklist or some dreams which you want to achieve throughout the year?
Well, look, I'm very lucky that the PMC voted for me to be in this role, and I just want to thank them for their support. Really, I'm just going to be continuing on from the trailblazing people before me. We've had a great group of others that have been in the VP position over the last decade. And I think the number one thing that every single person in this role wants is to help drive forward the vision and the community around Apache CloudStack, right? So that's really what I want to help do. I want to continue to talk to as many people as possible and hopefully encourage them to be part of the community so that we can continue to see the wide-scale success that we're known for.
I suppose you would also like to see some new users of Apache CloudStack and interesting use cases.
Yeah, absolutely, right. And I think part of that, of getting out there and promoting the overall project is the desire to have more users, right? Because in the end, we need that strong user base to not just survive, but to thrive. And there's always going to be a new use case that someone figures out. I think what we are starting to see more and more in the enterprise community right now is that, you know, public cloud is always going to be there. But I think as some larger enterprises start to look at their costs associated with that, they're starting to look a little bit more wider field of what the other options might be. So we've seen more and more companies saying, well, look, I know we said we weren't going to, you know, go and rent co-location space again and put in servers and run our own cloud, but we should really run the numbers and figure out what that would look like.
And at the end of our conversation, the question which I'm asking every VP, if you need to summarize CloudStack in only 3 words, what would they be?
It just works.
Yeah, that's enough said. Thank you very much, Simon, for joining us in the interview.
It's a pleasure, Yvette, as always.